I was saying that it's so funny that you asked for a scar and he gave you a scarf.
And it still works because the Harry Potter, like, it still works. It would work better if I had it, like, colored and everything, but I kind of have, like, a black and gray thing going.
Going on, yeah.
Yeah, I might as well just keep it going because I don't have any color tattoos. They're all black and gray.
That would look cool. I like that. It came out really cute still, so.
Thank you.
That's the good thing.
Yeah, it wasn't like a bad mistake. It was a mistake that worked.
Those are good mistakes.
They are good mistakes.
In my opinion, I believe that Becca has the best collection of tattoos.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's get started. My name is Nathaniel Avila, and I'm reporting from Greater Orlando. And I'm joined with Ruby Rodriguez, reporting from Dallas. And we're here joined with Becca Crum from Houston.
Hi.
H-Town. Oh my God, are you guys getting ready for the hurricane?
My dad's been like, hey, go get gas. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but where would I go? Like, I don't, like...
Oh my gosh, I'm so scared.
I've been through so many hurricanes at this point. I'm just kind of like, whatever. Like, that's just been my attitude towards hurricanes since, like, Ike in 2008.
Oh my goodness. Well, stay safe. That's all I'm going to say, because 2020 is a hell of a year, and we're not even through with it yet. So it's a good thing that on today's episode, we're going to talk about magic, specifically Harry Potter.
Yay!
I love Harry Potter. I love just the idea of magic, and don't you just wish sometimes that you could be like a wizard or a witch and you could just like fancy the idea of being able to like make all the bad go away?
Yes, I think my favorite Harry Potter like spell that I wish I could use is Accio, just like because I get so lazy so often.
The remote, Accio.
Literally, that's all I want. It's just like Accio remote, Accio foot stripes, Accio notebook. Like I get so lazy at times, and I'm just like, that's the one spell I wish I could just use all the time.
What about you, Nate? What spell would you like to be able to use?
Like Accio, a purpose to live.
Oh. Accio, life. Get a life.
That's my time. That's my time, everyone.
I feel.
Mine would definitely be the Wingardium Leviosa.
Oh, I love that. I love that spell. I actually, one of my next tattoos that I really, really want is Ridiculous. I would love to have that tattooed.
That one is good, too.
Because I know a lot of people have, like, Lumos, and I love Lumos. I think that's a really wonderful spell. But I'm such a scaredy cat at times. Like, I'm such a wuss that it's just, like, having that spell just kind of on my arm would just be, like, a really nice little reminder that, hey, you just turned the thing you're scared of into something stupid and funny and, that won't hurt you. So.
I would use that same concept with the Expecto Patronus, like something dark, you fight it with light, with like the biggest light ever. So I would love that. So today we're going to go over, time willing, each of our like Harry Potter favorite picks, because of course there's like what, seven or eight?
There's like 8.
There's 8 movies and 7 books.
There you go. That's why I always get confused. I actually have not read the books, and I'm going to be shamed for it.
Oh, no.
Because the books are always so much better. Like, always. And I bet there's so much that I missed.
Like, I love Harry Potter with my whole heart. I do. And my whole thigh, like, as well. But the books are better. Like, I love Prisoner of Azkaban. That's going to be, like, my number 1. But in my top 3, it's Goblet of Fire. And that's one of the least favorite film adaptations because there was so many things wrong with it. But Goblet of Fire seems like such a turning point for me in the Harry Potter world. Like, Prisoner of Azkaban was dark, but Goblet of Fire really takes it to the next level, especially with spoilers. If you haven't read or seen it,
I think we're beyond spoilers. It's been out for years.
I don't want to be rude. Like, just for anyone listening, I don't want to be rude.
Spoilers.
So, like, just, with Cedric's death, like, that's the first, like, young death that we really had, because James and Lily were, in their 20s, but that was kind of like that's the whole premise of the series. Like, we know that they died, but with Cedric, it was just like this first really hard hitting, because I love Cedric. I think Cedric is such an underrated character, and he deserved so much more. And then his dad's reaction, I can't remember the actor's name who plays the dad in the film, but his reaction of like, that's my boy, it broke my heart, and that's why it's in my top favorites, despite the fact it wasn't a super faithful adaptation. It's because of the Cedric arc.
I'm going to talk about Goblet of Fire. That's the pick that I chose for this episode. So whenever I'm talking about it, like, feel free to tell me, like, oh, well, that's different from the book, and let me know, like, what was different, from the movie and the book.
It's definitely been a while since I've read the books. I know that the actual Triwizard Tournament, especially the maze at the end, was a lot more intense. I believe there was a Sphinx. It's been so long since I read the books, and that makes me so sad, because I need to read them again. But the maze was definitely more intense and bigger. And then there's the classic, even if you haven't read the books, you know that this is the thing. Dumbledore screaming at Harry, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" When in the books, it's Dumbledore asked calmly. Like, that's one of the biggest differences, and it's one of the things that people hate the most about Goblet of Fire, which is understandable, because it's kind of frustrating. Because Michael Gambon was a great Dumbledore, but with the first two films, I love Richard Harris. I think he was such a sweet soul and such a sweet Dumbledore. And I think even if during Goblet of Fire they were like, say this angrily, I don't think he would have been able to do that. I think it would have been like no, it needs to be this, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Concerned parental grandfather kind of ask, not just this angry, aggressive, almost Dursley-like question.
And I could tell the difference. Like, I was able to tell the difference right away when they changed Professor Dumbledore. Like, you go from this, like, frail, like, very calm, very, like, soft-spoken Dumbledore. Yes. And then you go to this other one right away, the next movie, and he's all, like, happy and, like, hey, I got a pip in my step kind of Dumbledore. It's like,
exactly.
Okay.
Like,
did you age backwards? Like, did you do a spell? Aged backwards?
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, Richard Harris died, sadly, because I know when I had read a trivia thing, because I'm a huge IMDb nerd. I read trivia on movies and shows daily.
And you're also a filmmaker and a writer. I forgot to mention that.
Exactly. And so when Richard Harris died, well, before he died, he was actually like, don't recast my role. I will make it through this. I will play Dumbledore. Like, Richard Harris was so determined, and he loved being Dumbledore, but unfortunately he passed away, and they were forced to recast. And Michael Gambon is a brilliant actor, and I still love him as Dumbledore, because there are aspects that he did really well in, but there really was such a huge difference between the Richard Harris and the Michael Gambon Dumbledore, and it's such an intense twist that's just, it's jarring. There were a few things that Michael Gambon did that aren't like Goblet of Fire related. It's just like the darker things in like Deathly Hallows and things. I couldn't imagine Richard Harris doing them. Like, it's like they were playing. They're both Dumbledore, but they're only playing each side of Dumbledore. Like, so Richard Harris did play the soft-spoken, kind, grandfatherly Dumbledore that does exist. And then Michael Gambon plays the harsh, this is it, this is the blunt, this is the intense Dumbledore. So it's like, they both got to play each side of the character that does exist, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because like in the first two movies, the danger isn't as present as it is in the third, fourth, and the rest of the movies that follow. So I understand what you're saying in that, and I think they did well regardless. The only thing that I've noticed just recently watching them is that Daniel Radcliffe is so hard for him to cry. Like, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but he would do that, but like no tears would come out. His eyes wouldn't even water or anything. And I was like, why didn't y'all get this dude some eye drops at least? Like, I'm not going to say that he's a bad actor because he can't cry on scene. You know, like I can't cry sometimes on scene. You know, it has to involve a lot there, but I mean, they could have made it a little bit better by actually giving this guy like some kind of eye drops or something. Yeah. But that's one thing that I noticed. Before we get into each of our favorite films and we divulge and we, you know, pick them apart, I wanted to just use a little bit of the segment, the world issues segment is what I'm going to call it. This is our first
Ruby,
having it.
Ruby, one second. What does your shirt say?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
It says, can you read it?
Nice.
What do you have? What do you have against the solid form of water? It cools my drinks.
I wish it was only the solid form of water that we had to worry about.
Okay.
But unfortunately, no. You know what I mean. Okay. This is actually a shirt from the Bralettes. They are a local band from straight out of Oak Cliff, Texas, where I was born and raised. And they're very awesome. Like, they're a kick-ass rock band. I love them. It's just, it's 3 girls, and they kick ass. So I love them. But yeah, I wanted to take this time because usually we'll have Serenity's segment during this time. She's taking a break, so I'm going to use this time to present to you all some of the issues going on in the world, just a little bit, because there's so many.
Yeah.
So the one thing I wanted to talk about is the Lebanon explosion. I'm sure you've all heard about that and how devastating, you know, it has been over there for people to get back on their feet, especially during a pandemic right now. You know, there's people without, you know, homes right now who are out in the streets, and there's children and everything. So there's ways to donate. If you download the Lebanese Red Cross app, you can donate through there. And this will go directly to them. This is not the American Red Cross, you know, how they have been, I guess they said they've been reported to have been diverging funds elsewhere. I don't know what that was, but this is the Lebanese Red Cross. You can download it straight to your phone and you can donate. The minimum is set to like $2. So it's like, just please. And then another way that you can donate is by going to arab.org, which is ARAB.org. And we'll make sure to put all of this in the details, of course, of the video when it gets out. Each click on that site is a donation. And also you can watch a YouTube video called To Donate to Beirut. I think that's how you say it. Beirut. That every watch, how Nate say it, every watch counts as another donation. So those are easy ways for you to help out there. Another thing I wanted to mention was this organization that I recently joined. I found them on Facebook. And they're called TOP, T-O-P, and it stands for Texas Organizing Project. And they're the main ones that are like behind the funding the police departments here in Dallas or around Texas. And they're fighting for those funds in the budget from this big ass police budget that they always have, and they seem to keep increasing. We're just asking for what would be just very little to be invested back into the communities, you know, into poor communities where they're lacking a lot of resources, or even if there are some resources there, they're very underfunded. And they also push for mental health resources to be put in place, because that is definitely a priority that needs to be, you know, looked at. And in all of those poor communities, there's so much going on there. So I would advise you, if you're in Texas and you're, you know, interested in being a part of something like that, a part of this movement. They do work with In Defense of Black Lives as well, another organization. And so they're very organized. They know a lot about their city council members. They know about how everything works. And there's always events that they're putting on. So I would urge you to definitely check that out. Again, I'll put them on the list. Last thing I wanted to speak on is just recently, I think it was a day or so ago, there was another Black man who was shot unarmed 7 times in Wisconsin. He was shot in front of his kids, and he was there breaking up a fight between 2 women. The cops were called. Cops get on him, and he's like just peacefully like walking away from them, trying to get to his car where his kids are. There's a whole video. The video shows him trying to get into his car to get to his kids. The police officer is pulling his shirt while he's shooting at him, while this guy was trying to get in his car. They shot at him 7 times. And this guy, his name is Jacob Blake, and he is now in ICU in a medically induced coma. So I just want to send positive healing vibes to his family and friends, and we hope he makes it out. So yeah, now we can talk about lighter, happier, magical things like Harry Potter. Unless you guys have any questions about anything that I, just asked. Just talked about.
I have no questions, but I do think it's really good that you decided to incorporate and talk about these things, because these are horrible, horrible things that are going on. And I think it's, and I feel like a lot of people are kind of like hopping on a trend, like, okay, sending prayers to this, and then suddenly they're, advertising their brand again. So it's like, here's this thing. So sorry that this happened. Oh yeah, buy my t-shirts, by the way. And like, that's it. And I think that's just a really sad thing that's happening. And I did that. When Blackout Tuesday happened, I posted just a solid black square, and then I was kind of looking into it. So the initial want of that was to actually, hey, don't advertise your own thing for today. Post links and stuff to, these petitions and donate sites and all of these other important things that you can do. And so I actually deleted mine and reposted it with links and say, hey, and I was like, hey, it's the actual link is in my bio if you just want to click on it, but then there's this black square with the typed out if you want to just type it. And so I think a lot of people only did the black square and that was it. But I think if you did it but then realized your mistake and said, oh, okay, no, I need to post links and donation sites and all these things, and you reposted it and you learned from your mistake, I think that's really good. And I appreciate you having this platform and bringing these issues even more to light, because they are important and they need to be discussed. And I think it was
I'm very glad that you said that, because that's basically what we want people to do, is that we want you to see, that when you do make an error, or you did misunderstand something, or you thought you knew something, but then you grab some more information, and the fact that you can, actually, how do I say, self-reflect on yourself and say, oh, I didn't know that this is what this was. Let me go ahead and correct myself.
Exactly.
It's so hard for some people to do that. And it's so hard for somebody to even go read something. But really, it's not that it's hard. It's just that they don't want to. They don't want to find something else out that's going to make them have to change. Because some people don't like change.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
And with the Lebanon crisis and everything, there was this woman was actually getting her wedding photos done, and then while they were getting the wedding photos done, the wedding video and things like that, you could see the explosion. And so I was reposting that, because you see this woman just trying to live her life, and hey, I'm having a wedding and I think that's really awesome and all this stuff, and then something horrible happens. People were then posting oh, why are you only posting about the wedding? And it's I'm not. But I think it's also really important to show, someone is trying to live their normal life and have a good day, because a wedding day is a good day, or a wedding photo shoot is a good day.
It's a good feeling, yeah.
And it's just really sad to see it broken up by this horrible thing that happened. And And then, you saw like the different points of view, some from very close, some from far away, some from apartment buildings, some from the streets, some from wherever. And it's just like, yeah, but,
I freaked out when I saw the explosion. Like, it literally looked like a nuke. Yeah, and I freaked. I was like, whoa. Like, and then I saw the comparison in explosions, and it was like the third highest, the most biggest explosion, and Hiroshima was second, to it, I think. Yeah. So it's big. It was big, and it's a big catastrophe. And I do have a link that I'm gonna make sure that I put in the description of this video, which is it's the Do the Right Thing card. I think it's a link, but it has basically everything that's going on in the world and all the world issues and petitions and resources and stuff that you can click on. So, like you said, I don't want it. We don't want it to be a trend, because we spoke on this during our Black Lives Matter episode, is that we it's not a trend. Like, it's just something that some people have not been awoken to. And I understand that, people are joining, and that's great. We don't want to also gatekeep, information from everybody else. We want everybody to be on the same, particular mission with us. We all need to come together and work on it. And I would love to use this time, like I said, the segment that we have here, to present these things, because it's the least that I could do.
Exactly. And that was basically what my comment was. It was just a TLDR. I love that you're using this to help these organizations and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, we're gonna try, right, Nate?
Absolutely.
We're gonna try.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. So yeah, we can get into our Harry Potter.
Yay!
I am going to, how do I say, portray the voice of Dobby. I'd like to portray the voice of Dobby throughout this whole episode.
No.
I wish.
No, my accents are terrible.
So return to Hogwarts.
So
which I thought was the cutest thing. Like, it was so sad when Dobby died. I was like, not Dobby. Like, why?
I have an unpopular Harry Potter opinion. It might get a lot of flack. I don't know. I was not the biggest fan of Dobby. I didn't really care. I was just kind of like, yeah, his death is sad, and his first words are Harry Potter, and his last words are Harry Potter, and he sacrificed himself. But at the same time, I just kept getting frustrated with him in Chamber of Secrets, and I knew why. I knew why he was doing what he was doing, and I understood it.
But it was frustrating, because it's like, oh my God, he really wants to save Harry Potter, but he's going about it in all the wrong way.
It's I felt like year 2 Harry Potter in that moment. Dobby, go away.
Yeah.
It's just, I was never a fan of Dobby.
One thing that I talked about with my husband is how at the beginning of all of the movies, they show him back at his aunt and uncle's house, right?
Yes.
I think up until the last 2, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's so funny.
I think Phoenix, he might have been at the Weasleys. Oh, and Goblet of Fire, because they went to the Quidditch World Cup.
Was he? No, but he had just gotten there the night before, remember? So he was somewhere. He was back at his aunt and uncle's. They just didn't show him.
Yeah, they just
showed him. Show that, yeah. But it was funny whenever they would show him opening at his uncle's and aunt's house, because I'm like, isn't it so funny, the way he leaves? He leaves in a messed up way, them being angry with him. And how does he just show up back there? Afterwards, hey, I'm back. You just let me back in,
Exactly.
Do they talk about that in the books?
They talk about why they had to leave him at the Dursleys in the first book. It's Petunia's blood, because they were related, they were blood related, protected him. It's why he didn't stay with McGonagall or stay with Dumbledore or Hagrid or anyone. Yeah. That's why they had to drop him off at the Dursleys. But yeah, it was funny, because if you've only seen the movies, it's really funny, because you're just he leaves so angrily and like aggressively, and it's super dramatic, and then it's like, oh, he's back,
and then he has to end up going back. Yeah, it's like.
Didn't he like?
Did you want to go first, Nate?
No, let Becca go first because hers takes place first in the canon.
And she's also our guest of honor, and ladies first, right, Nate?
Well, thank you.
Now I know that all the Harry Potters are available on HBO Max.
Yes, that's where I've been watching them on.
Yes.
So Becca is going to talk to us about The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, by Alfonso Cuaron.
Yes, I love this movie. I love time travel. I think time travel is a super fun thing to experiment with because there's no right way to do it because you're going to screw up something somehow. And it's just, time travel is so much fun. And one of my favorite little trivia bits that I read about Prisoner of Azkaban for the movie was Alfonso's accent was so thick that the production designers or the VFX artists, hey, when the Dementors come on the train in the beginning, he wants ice to the windows. He heard EYS, and so they have the sketch of hitting the window when the Dementors come on the train. And he was like, oh, no, not ice. And it was just like it's just like a fun trivia thing that I thought that I read. I was like, imagine, getting a sketch of a bunch of eyeballs hitting a train window. Like, that's terrifying. And it's like, no, that's not what I want. Please don't put eyeballs against the train because that's horrifying. And it's one of my favorite trivia bits, I think, throughout the entire Harry Potter series. And then, the introduction of Sirius Black. I adore Sirius Black, and his whole story is just heartbreaking, and Sirius Black deserved better. And then the introduction of Remus Lupin, who is definitely the werewolf, yes. He's definitely in the top 2 of best teachers at Hogwarts, the other one being Minerva McGonagall. And I liked how in the movie they portray him as as a werewolf being like a disease because he can't control it. It's something that is dangerous and scary, and he can't control it. He's stuck being a werewolf, and that can be a good thing in other universes, but in this Harry Potter universe, it's not romanticized. It's not, he's not this beautiful, no hits at Twilight, but he's not this cuddly werewolf that you can just pet all the time. Like, it's this scary thing, and I think it's really cool that they had that, because you've seen werewolves kind of just be treated as like soft, cuddly little dogs, and I think it's important to see them as like scary things, because werewolves and vampires and all of these things are scary at times, and it's nice that we got to see them, all cuddly and comforty. Again, it's not a bash at Twilight, but it's a little bit of a bash at Twilight. And
you're also a Slytherin, so you like the dark things.
Yes, and I think werewolves are super interesting creatures in general, like whether that be in Harry Potter, whether that be in Twilight, other medium, American Werewolf in London. Like, werewolves are such complex and interesting creatures that there's just so much about them, and I love that. Werewolves are cool, and I like werewolves. We get to see that in Prisoner of Azkaban, and the whole Buckbeak arc, and we kind of get to see the beginning of Hermione, where Buckbeak dies, and Ron kind of comforts Hermione, and Harry's just kind of awkwardly like, they're there, just on the side.
Oh, I remember that scene.
And it's I love like the tone of it, because while in Goblet of Fire it really hits that dark point with Cedric, you see it visually in Prisoner of Azkaban, because Alfonso took a very dark tone with it visually. So he worked with the cinematographer and the DP, and he made it just look dark, which I think was important, because you had Chamber of Secrets where Ginny gets she gets not taken over, but she does these horrible things. Like, a thing that wasn't mentioned in the movies was what she wrote on the wall with the chamber has been opened. She wrote that in chicken blood. And yeah, it wasn't shown in the movies, but it was described in the books. And that, to have poor 11-year-old Bonnie Wright, to have her try to kill a chicken, even if it was a fake chicken, on screen, that might have been a little traumatizing for poor 11-year-old Bonnie Wright. So I understand why they decided to cut it. But Alfonso really just took that turn with Prisoner of Azkaban and made it dark. And he also let the cast kind of wear what they want. They got to wear more casual clothes, which I really liked, because we got to see a little bit more of their personality without it having to be super obvious. Like, oh, hey, I'm Hermione, I'm smart, I'm Ron, I'm funny, I'm Harry, I'm the chosen one. You get to see it in how they dress and how they grew up. And Ron's gonna have secondhand clothing, Hermione's gonna have nice clothes, but they're gonna be pretty simple, because she's not like an extravagant kind of girl. Yeah. She likes to just wear simple clothing and be comfortable. And she's a bookworm, but she's a badass, so she's not gonna wear a Cinderella dress, ignoring Goblet of Fire, although that was really a Cinderella dress. She wants to be comfortable. And then poor Harry grew up with the Dursleys, so he's gonna get shit. So he's gonna have like the same 2 shirts for as long as they fit him for forever. And it's interesting.
Even though he has money, even though his parents left him all that money, right?
Exactly.
Harry's still not a person that even matters. Like, from the beginning, when they say that all his parents left him all this money, he doesn't even make a big deal about it, and he just goes to get what he needs, and that's it.
Granted, in the first one, he does buy the whole trolley of candy.
Oh yeah, he does. But I think that was just him being a kid, and he was just like kind of trying to be nice, because he saw Ron didn't have anything but a sandwich, and he was like, I'll get it. So it really wasn't about him showing off, more so like, I'm being kind, and I want you guys as my friends, and I'm gonna share with you,
Exactly. And he's also a kid, and you've heard the phrase kid in the candy store, and he's a kid in the candy store with a lot of gold, so he's gonna buy all that candy.
Yeah, but I get about it being darker, and I think they did it in that way also because this is the first time that we get to see the Dementors, and that in itself is like a dark thing, and the way that it starts off so dark like that, even so it does follow the tone throughout the whole story. My favorite part of that movie is when Hermione decks Malfoy.
Yes, fun fact, it was originally supposed to just be a slap, but then Emma Watson just went and just decked Tom Felton in the face, and it was amazing, and it was the best. And it's one of my favorite Hermione moments, because she's like, you know what, I'm done taking your shit, and then just decks him in the face.
Instead of the boys, instead of Ron or Harry, because Harry's had his confrontations, with Malfoy, like, since he got there, right? And so instead of it being them, it ends up being Hermione that does it.
Which I love. I think that, it's such a break between, not just in Harry Potter, but just in general media. We see, the guy bullying the girl, and it's like, oh, well, let me have my 2 boy best friends stand up for me and beat you up for me. It's like, no, Hermione's a badass in her own right. She can punch a dude herself. Like, she doesn't even need magic.
Yeah, she did. Well, that's the thing too. I was like, she could either punch the dude, or she's so smart, and she's an awesome witch. She could easily but she didn't, because she was like, you're not even worth it.
Exactly. You're not even worth using my abilities. I'm just gonna and it's even better because she's a Muggle-born and he's a pureblood. And so to use a very Muggle method of punching or of fighting is just even better. And I love it.
This is the film where we first meet Bellatrix.
Yes.
Which one is Bellatrix? Oh, yeah. No, she comes out on this?
In the last bit, the Azkaban kind of breaks. It's kind of broken.
Oh, and, she's like out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and we hear her laugh, and Helena Bonham Carter played her perfectly. She was the perfect Bellatrix.
Yeah, I think so too. She was great. I also liked it whenever Buckbeak, gets on Malfoy for trying to little hard ass. And he's like, my father would hit about this. My father.
and then I can't remember her name, Madame Pomfrey. Draco's whining, and she's like, "Oh, shut up, Malfoy. You'll be fine. Shut up." While Harry's over here with broken bones, or not even broken bones. They're just gone.
Oh, bones. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. That was Buckbeak was. Okay, I'm confusing them. That's my bad. The No Bones is Chamber of Secrets, but
is that Chamber of Secrets? Okay.
Yeah, No Bones was Chamber of Secrets, but Harry did have worse injuries because of the Dementors. I was confusing my villains for a second.
You were confusing the times that he's been in the infirmary.
So many times. It's so terrible.
We also meet Emma Thompson's character, the fortune teller. We first hear the prophecy.
Trelawney. She's a character. I love her. Her scene in Order of the Phoenix when Umbridge is not only firing her, but kicking her out of Hogwarts. And there's this heartbreaking, Hogwarts is my home line. That hit so hard, and Emma Thompson is such a brilliant actress that line just really hit, and it hurt. And she's a little bit of a weirdo, but that's okay. We like weirdos in the Harry Potter fandom, and
I mean, she's what you would expect for her. Someone like her, what she teaches. Exactly. She teaches the vision, and of course, if you can see all that kind of stuff, you're gonna be off. Just a little. So I think that she played that character really well as well, and it was so funny how Hermione is challenged by her class, because leave it to Hermione, to find a time traveling device to get her into multiple classes at the same time. But this one class is like really bugging her because it's one class that you don't use your books, like you don't use your smarts and your knowledge that you read. You have to like just see and have the gift, and she's kind of like.
It's not something Hermione can study for, and that's what hurts. And I feel that. I'm not a good math or science student, and that is something that I can study, yes, but it's just there's something about it that I don't get. I can do fine in English and theater and all of these other classes, but math and science, no matter what, it's not there for me, and that's kind of what Hermione's was. Yeah.
It was kind of like, I guess they were trying to give us some kind of relatedness, like, towards her character. I guess that was her way of trying to do that. Let us relate to her.
And it was nice that, yes, Hermione is book smart and she's this brightest witch of her age, but she's not going to get every single concept. And I think that's a really important thing to have, especially with people who are, something that I saw a few days ago. It's like, it was this post. It was like, if you read at like a 6th grade level in the 3rd grade, you're a depressed adult now. And I feel like that's what Hermione was, because she is this super, super smart person. And you have these super, super smart people in our world. And it's like, you don't have to understand everything. It's okay to not understand a concept.
Yeah.
And it was
like, really everybody has their own strengths. Exactly. We each can be educated in a certain area, you know, just because I'm not educated in the areas that you're educated in doesn't mean that I'm uneducated or I'm stupid even, you know, it's just like we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, which is why I'm against the way that they teach school to begin with, public schools or whatever, but let's not get into that. We just wish we could go to Hogwarts. Can we go to Hogwarts?
Maybe not while Harry's there though, because that just ends in disaster every year, so either after or before.
After Harry Potter.
So like,
well, I don't know. I want to fight. I'd want to fight Voldemort.
Okay. No, you can't say his name, or else
he who shall not be named.
Yes.
Or to quote Hermione, fear of a name only increases fear of the thing.
Fear would say.
Yeah, no, but isn't it like wasn't it supposed to be like a jinx, and then he was supposed to find you with like a tracking device? If you say his name,
no, I think they were just like. The whole like magic, the ministry, I think they like wanted to play this thing where like if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. You know, like they were trying to do this sort of thing like that.
And because Voldemort was so aloof after he had killed James and Lily, it was kind of just like, okay, well, you know, he's not coming back. He died when he killed James and Lily because we haven't seen him. And then for 11 years, there's no signs of him. So I mean, it's also understandable because for 11 years, that's a long time. It didn't look like he was coming back. So.
And I don't think they wanted to like, you know, give him a legacy, and they didn't. That's why they didn't want his name to be, you know, said a lot among people, because they're like, we're not gonna give him anything, you know, that he wanted, you know, because he wanted that. He wanted to be recognized. He wanted to be known by everyone, and he wanted to rule the magic world. So.
I don't know. I remember reading that in the 7th book, and there was a deleted scene where they did say that information.
Oh, they did?
It might be. It's been a while. Again, like I said earlier, it's been a while since I've read the books, unfortunately, and I've watched the movies fairly recently, but it's been a while. So there's in my memory is that of a small mammal. So
well, if it's a deleted scene, I definitely haven't seen it. I can tell you that much. Do they have the deleted scene available on HBO Max?
Probably. It might be in the extras section.
I'm gonna go look.
Okay.
But yeah, was that all that you wanted to say about Prisoner of Azkaban, Becca?
Yeah, I mean, my TLDR of Prisoner of Azkaban was time travel, werewolves, Hermione punches the shit out of Draco. 10 out of 10. That's basically my main points.
It was also the first Harry Potter to get a PG-13 rating.
Yes, which is super cool because edgy.
Yeah.
Edgy.
Yeah, it was first made by Chris Columbus. He made the first 2 films. The guy who made Home Alone. And,
yes.
And he was like, well, this is a kid's book, so it's going to be for kids. So let's make it for kids. And then they were like, yeah, I mean, we're probably going to make all 7 of these. And then he's like, I don't know. I kind of want to spend some time with my kids. So I'm going to piece it out.
It's understandable. And I think it's commendable that he was like, you know what, I like the Harry Potter films and I love doing it, but I gotta spend time with my children.
Yeah.
So I get that.
And then he walks by and he's like, Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yep.
Sounds pretty good.
And that went. Oh, we all saw how that went.
Yeah.
So did he want to stay within like doing kids movies? Like he wanted to do only G-rated movies? Was that his thing?
Yeah, kind of. He made Pixels, which wasn't that kid friendly. It was kind of dumb, but.
What? I love Pixels.
Oh, you like Pixels? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Why was it dumb?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
It was funny. It was funny to me.
Okay. Of course you would like that kind of humor. I mean, yeah, I just saw Adam Sandler and I was like, I'm not feeling it.
Oh my God. Well, let's go ahead and get into your movie, Nate.
No, let's get into yours because yours is like the direct sequel to Azkaban, Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, right. So we're going to do it in order.
Yeah.
Okay. So I picked Goblet of Fire, because we all know it's awesome. This was the 4th movie in, you know, the series, and it was released in 2005. The main thing for me, and it's funny, but because it's like Twilight came out afterwards, but I'm like, Edward. You know, we see Robert Pattinson for the very first time. We see Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory.
Yep.
So like Becca was mentioning, we have the Quidditch World Cup tournament that it opens up, you know, and that iconic line that Harry gives when he steps into that tent and he's like, I love magic. And it's just like, I know, right? So we get that awesome Quidditch World Cup, you know, like it's so awesome to get to see, you know, something like that, something big where all the wizards come and, you know, it's like a game, you know, that they all enjoy watching. And we get, you know, the introduction of like these badasses like Becca Crum and stuff like that. This is also the first time that we get to look at the Death Eaters. This is like at the very beginning when they come and they crash the World Cup. We see the Death Eaters, you know, burning shit up. And it's the first time that Harry has seen Voldemort's followers. So neither one of them are aware. First of all, you know, the dad, Ron's dad, Mr. Weasley, has to tell them, you know, that those were the Death Eaters. This movie has a lot of like the end of adolescence, the start of puberty, them all like experiencing mixed new feelings. Like it's all like reeling, you know, around them. Like love is in the air for some. Like Hermione and Ron's relationship is like tested, you know. Ron and Harry's relationship is tested, you know, because Ron gets upset because he thinks that Harry cheated his way into the Goblet of Fire, which is weird because like Harry's like, bro, I don't want to die. Like, what the hell? Why would I do that?
There's a bigger chance of me dying anyway. Why do I want to increase that chance?
Exactly. So I kind of didn't get that, but then I kind of did, you know, because Ron, I guess he felt like Harry was hiding something from him, and he felt like that trust had been broken between them. So I get that. And then we see Hagrid getting it on with Madame Maxine. You know, Hagrid is getting him some action too, this movie. And then we also have like the whole school like being against Harry Potter, like because they think he cheated his way into that cup. And so they have the whole like Potter stinks, you know, buttons and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so it's like so bad for Harry, you know, but like he has so much more going on and so much more to worry about that doesn't even bother him, you know.
It's almost like a more relatable Harry because I feel like kind of other than, you know, being put in a shitty home and then with Goblet of Fire and then being like bullied, he was kind of untouchable. Like he kind of wasn't a super relatable character. It's like, oh, he's the perfect chosen one, da-da-da,
yeah.
He's destined for this, and he has the perfect friends, and he's just kind of perfect. It was just kind of hard to relate to him, and then in Goblet of Fire with the Potter stinks and the bullying, and it
made him more relatable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love that, even though, like I said, they're bullying him and stuff like that, like he does not let that deter him from what he needs to be worried about to begin with. You know, like he's also trying to help Cedric, you know, because he gets the gravity of the situation that they're in. You know, it's like, dude, we're going to fight these dragons. Like, what? So that's another awesome thing that this movie brings is it brings the Tri-Wizard Tournament. So we get the introduction of like other magic schools because up until this point we only see Hogwarts. So we get to see, you know, the Madame school. We get to see that school from that Death Eater. What's his name? He was a Death Eater, but he runs that school now where Becca Crum is in. What other one do we see?
Those are the
it's just the two.
It's just the two, right?
Yeah, it's Bo Battens, and then I cannot remember the name of the male school. However, on that note, they actually were co-ed. Both of them were co-ed in the books, and it was weird that in the movies they decided to make the French school, the French tend to be more feminine, quote unquote.
Yeah.
They decided to make it all girls because it's a more feminine school, and then the Bulgaria, I think it's in Bulgaria, the Bulgarian school, masculine and aggressive is the male school, which I thought was weird, but I still love Goblet of Fire. That was a weird choice because in the books they're both co-ed.
They're both co-ed. Well, then this is the first time that we get to see like other schools of magic, so that's pretty cool. We learn about the deadly curses, the unforgivable curses. There's dragons, mermaids, a ball. It's like there's so much going on in this movie, and a lot of it stems from, mental health issues. So we see like daddy issues, we see pridefulness, we see camaraderie, like we see so much of mental health in this one movie, which I love. And then we get the awesome maze at the end of the movie, where Voldemort comes back for the very first time. So we get to see how he comes back to life.
Wasn't Harry like really into Cho, the Asian girl?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there's feelings there, like of leaving, adolescence, and they're getting these like feelings for, other people now, and that's just like something that happens, as you're growing up, and they're showing that,
It's an awkward teenage romance, which we've all been through, like the whole staircase scene, or like the owlry scene, where he's like, do you want to go to the ball? And she's like, I already have a date.
It's so awkward.
Like, it's so awkward and relatable. Like, I feel like that's something, even if we haven't been there, it's like, oh, that would have definitely happened. Like, I would have had the luck. I asked a girl out finally, and it's like, oh, I already have a date. Sorry.
But thank you anyways.
Oh, yep, I've had that a couple times. So, I know, I know because of that, because the person that she went out with was Cedric, and Harry became very jealous of Cedric after that.
I wouldn't say very jealous. I mean, I think he kind of understood, why someone would go with Cedric.
Yeah, he's so dreamy.
So it's so crazy because even after Twilight came out after this, it's just so awesome to go back and watch this movie, so you get a Twilight Harry Potter crossover in your mind. And so it's just so amazing.
I mean, he's Batman now. The trailer
he's Batman now.
The trailer just
I saw this hilarious post where it was a bunch of people had gone in, they were Robert Pattinson was walking, and they were like, oh, and they were all shouting Edward, and then the one girl that actually walked away with an autograph was the girl who kept shouting Cedric, not Edward. And I
was like, well, I found out. What I think is crazy is that he played Cedric, and he said in an interview that after he played Cedric, he had a really hard time finding another role, and he was basically almost living on the street before he got cast for Twilight. And so then Twilight blew up even more, because like you said, he didn't even really get what he deserved, as much screen time as he deserved, or as much character developed as he was, deserved in the Harry Potter series. So I'm glad that they picked him up for Twilight, because he's a really awesome actor. First of all, if you've seen him in Lighthouse, I was like,
oh yeah, the Lighthouse,
amazed. Yeah, I was amazed. And then I have not seen the trailer of myself, the new Batman teaser trailer, but I did hear from people that it was good.
Yeah.
So
he was also in this film.
I'm excited.
He was in this film called The King, where he played a French guy.
Oh yeah, next to Timothée Chalamet. I forgot that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me see. He was in Water for Elephants, I think, and he was also in He was in this other film called Remember Me. So
yeah, Remember Me was one that came out. I think like right after Twilight, like after his first Twilight movie.
And he's gonna be in Tenet, that's coming out this week.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he has a really good career ahead of him.
We can't say the same for Taylor Lautner, though. Ooh, snap!
That was a low blow.
That was a low blow. I'm punching down of a celebrity.
He's still Shark Boy in my eyes.
Fun fact about Taylor Lautner with Twilight. Well, so yeah, speaking of Shark Boy, like the difference between Shark Boy and playing Jacob is 3 years.
Yeah.
Like,
wow, dude.
He played Shark Boy at like 13, I think, or 12, and then he played Jacob at like 16. And I'm just like, how you look so different. Like, I know 3 years is a fairly long time, but damn.
Wow, he's drinking muscle milk.
Like, that's insane. That was a weird time. Like, that's a weird time realization that I had, and I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like how I feel each year that we get a new Stranger Things. We get a new Stranger Things season. I'm like, why do they grow up so fast? Like, stop growing. Especially
why would you grow up so fast?
Yeah, especially Finn. Like, Finn is like freaking 6 feet tall. And it's like, dude, you can't play a young person anymore. Like, you're super tall. So yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, overall, I want to say that this movie was one of my favorites because it has all of that in there. It has a lot going on. Voldemort comes back, so it's like official now. Like, he's back, and everybody should freak the F out.
So like,
and yeah.
So like, tell me, what's your opinion on the Triwizard Ball?
What do you mean? Like, my opinion on how it was shot, or
like basically
music,
like
or
how the characters interacted with each other?
I liked it because, like I said, it presents a lot of the lost adolescence and the awkward teenage phase that they're going. And they did that whole they spent like a huge chunk of time showing how awkward it was to ask somebody to a dance, to a ball. There were some people who were older, like Ron's brothers, that, could easily ask a girl out. And then there were others that were just coming into like their own selves. Mm-hmm. And then they're so like worried about getting rejected and all of that goes along with it. So I really like that they showed that. And then during the ball, I like how they show Hermione and Ron fighting, because it's like Ron does not want to admit his feelings for Hermione, even though she knows that they're there. And so like they're fighting back and forth, but like whatever Ron responds to Hermione, he's like, well, that's besides the whole point, isn't it? Or like, he like makes a different, like he ends it with like a different subject, or like to throw her off completely. And she's just like, dude, I can't with you, So
he's like, next time, get the guts to just ask me.
Yeah, she's like, and not as a last resort.
And he's like, that's besides the point.
Yeah, and then Harry's like, what was that all about? Because she gets mad at Harry too. Like, that part is so funny to me. But she's, and you, where have you been all night? Never mind, both of you, off to bed. And Harry's like, okay. And then they even say that like they're scary when they get older. So I love it. I love that whole thing.
Harry and Ron went out with those 2 Indian twins.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was like the only ones that didn't have dates. Yeah. They kind of like used them as a last resort.
Yeah, which and they were constantly like walking by and be like, "Oh, hi, Harry." Yeah. Lift up the pants, show a little ankle. You know what I mean?
I guess they were the only ones out of the school, or the very few out of the school, that weren't so mad with Harry. They were still infatuated with Harry and the idea of him being the chosen one,
Chosen one, yeah. All right, you have anything else to say about the Goblet of Fire?
Only that you should watch it. if you haven't already. And like Nate said,
fact about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a fun fact about it. So Hermione's dress in the movie is pink, but in the book it's supposed to be blue. But the reason they decided to go with pink is because the way that the Great Hall is dressed in white and blue, the dress would just look awkward and it would kind of just fade into the background, and Hermione is supposed to stand out. And so they decided to go with pink so she could stand out like she's supposed to. Which, I mean, I get it, but also I really would have loved a blue dress. But I get it. It's completely understandable. Okay. Especially because the ball theme was supposed to be winter, and so it wouldn't make sense if the decorations weren't pink or if they weren't blue.
Right.
So it made sense, because I know that's a lot of another thing. Kind of people are just kind of like, Hermione's dress was supposed to be blue, not pink. And so that's why. The reason I read the trivia is because I usually get explanations for why things are the way they are.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to know things like that you didn't, while they were filming. I love reading about things like that. They also had that scene where they're trying to show them how to dance. Professor McGonagall is trying to teach them how to dance, and they're all like, I want to.
Then Ron has to go up there, and it's just amazing.
And then Ron has to deal with the embarrassment of the dress robes that his mom sends him because, they're poor. So it's just like, that alone speaks volumes to a lot of kids these days that don't have, the same kind of, background or economic, social standing that others do in school. And, they see some kids with the nice clothes, shoes, and they're, they have hand-me-downs and stuff like that. So I'm glad that they showed that as well.
I got all my
mental health.
Okay. I got all my outfits for like homecoming and prom and stuff. Oh no. At thrift stores. Okay, wait.
I love thrift shopping. Thrift shopping.
Okay. My disk space just like filled up, so I can't record any more video. So we're just gonna go audio for the rest of the day.
Aww. Okay.
So,
that was all I had to say about that.
All right. So, what rating would you give it? Give it a 10 out of 10?
Yes, I would definitely give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Definitely one of my favorite movies from that series.
Okay. Would you say it's like one of the best teen movies?
I could say it's a movie that I would like teens to watch. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on to my pick, which is the 7th film, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. More like the Deathly Swallows. Am I right? Come on. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was thinking about the entire episode. So that's my time. All right. So so this film was very revolutionary, as in like it was the first film to ever be broken into 2 parts. I remember seeing the trailer for it be like the first trailer for it was like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1 coming out October, Part 2 coming out July. And I was like, whoa. And I remember after that, a bunch of other studios, especially Lionsgate, was like, hey, we should probably do that too. And they constantly like split the last 2 films into 2 parts. They did that with Twilight.
They did do that with Twilight.
Yeah, they did that with The Hunger Games. They were going to do it with Divergent, and they were going to do it with The Maze Runner, and they were going to do it with 50 Shades. But by the time those came out, the trend already ended, and then they were like, okay, just make it into one. So, so this film is the last installment, and this is where everything like comes to a head, where Harry goes into this epic final battle with Voldemort and everything. The first film mostly is him looking for the Horcrux and everything. The Horcruxes. And I know a lot of people are like, they just spend the entire movie walking in the woods. But I mean, it was pretty interesting. It was pretty cool seeing like how everything comes back, especially like after we find like the Slytherin medallion. And I thought it was really interesting how the person who destroyed the Horcrux was actually Ron, and not Harry. And especially since we finally see like the main conflict that Ron had, which was that he constantly felt like he was in Harry's shadow. Is that right, Ruby?
Yep.
Yeah, he was constantly feeling like he was in Harry's shadow. He felt
like he wasn't good enough for Hermione either.
Yeah,
like he would feel that, and that's why he would think that she would more likely end up with someone like Harry versus him. Like that was inside his head.
Right, and then he also felt like his parents loved Harry more than they loved him. Like stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that was really cool, pretty interesting. So yeah, like was also like they also have this strange like witch hunt thing that was going on in the film, where they were all like, if you have nothing to hide, then you will be okay or something. So like, what do you guys think that how that reflects, you know, today's society especially?
Well, there's a scene in, I can't remember if it's part 1 or 2. I'm pretty sure it's part 1. Actually, it might even be in Half-Blood Prince. I honestly, the last like 3 movies kind of just blended together for me. But but there's a scene where this woman, she is being interrogated by Umbridge, and she's like, I'm a witch. I bought my wand at Ollivander's when I was 11 in Diagon Alley. And Umbridge is like, no, you didn't. You stole this from... And I feel like that reflects a lot of what's happening today, is like, I'm doing this thing and I'm being honest and I'm telling the truth. And then people in power are just like, no, you're not. We know
people in power are just evil. People in power like that, like she was evil. Like they were all evil.
Umbridge was the worst.
Like I hated Umbridge, and I think the lady that you're talking about, she was the wife of another wizard who worked at the Ministry of Magic, and they were interrogating her, right?
Yeah, and Ron actually ended up disguising himself as the husband, not on purpose. It just that's who he happened to grab.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which movie this is in, because again, the last 3 movies blend together for me. It has to be part 1. Anyway, and then with Order of the Phoenix as well, and I know this isn't about Deathly Hallows, but kind of starting from Order of the Phoenix on, you see that in like the people in power with Umbridge and the Minister, and all of these people are not doing their jobs. Like they're not taking things seriously. It's they're corrupt and they're horrible, and they're horrible. And
like the Minister didn't even want to put it out there that Voldemort was back, remember?
Like he had to watch.
Yeah, he had to see it like, firsthand. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's especially with Order of the Phoenix, and like the kids being the ones to, with Dumbledore's army being like, we're taking charge now. We're doing this. This is our fight. And
that's exactly what's happening now.
Exactly.
The kids are being the adults.
Yeah, and it's and it goes into part 1 of, and it goes into Deathly Hallows, which is Nate's film. It goes into that, and it's just really important. And I think Order of the Phoenix all the way to Deathly Hallows Part 2 is just this very, we have to fight for what's right because you won't. And I kind of bad tangent, sorry.
And it kind of just shows like how much they've grown up, like they go from being these kids who knew nothing about nothing, and they go into this magic school and they're like, oh, magic, it's so cool and awesome. And I get to do this and I get to do that. And then it's like, there's this big danger that happens. And then they have to grow up, and kind of, I feel like they grew up faster than they really would have.
Yeah.
If Voldemort's presence wouldn't have been there. So I kind of feel like they were robbed just a little, but I also feel like them being a part of that world, that magic world, helped them in doing so and growing up. So.
Well, like, so there's the Harry Potter game, right? It's Harry Potter, a Hogwarts Mystery, where you get to play a student. And you're actually, and so this is prior to Harry Potter. So this is before he starts Hogwarts, but it's after his parents have been killed. And you are actually in the same year, or at least 1 year off or something, as Tonks, who unfortunately dies in the series. And so in the game, we actually get to see Tonks, and then you're also playing a character who's her age, and knowing what happens to her in the series, it's weird and it's jarring. And then you have what happened to Lavender Brown in part 2, where she gets mauled by a werewolf. And like, while I wasn't a fan of her character, there wasn't really anything wrong with her. If anything, it's just, you know, she had a crush and she was in love, and like that was what happened to her. And then she gets this brutal, awful death. I
forgot that she dies.
Yeah, it's a horrible death, and like I didn't like her, but
she didn't deserve to die.
Yeah, no, she didn't, especially not that way. Like, damn. Like, I don't know if you've seen Grey's Anatomy, but there's a shooting episode, and there's a character who I personally wasn't a fan of, but she gets shot in the head, and it's a horrible death. Like, you know, immediately dies, and then her best friend trips over her dead body. Like, that's a horrible thing, and it's like, you have these characters that I don't necessarily like, but then you see these horrible deaths that happen to them, and you're like, oh my god. And you see that in a lot of shows and movies like Grey's Anatomy and Harry Potter, is these kids and these young adults and these 20-year-olds are dying horrible deaths, and it relates to what's happening now, and it's horrible. So Harry Potter really showcases that not everyone gets to live. Like Colin Creevey, the little Gryffindor who loved Harry Potter and was taking pictures of him constantly. Obviously, by the time the Battle of Hogwarts happened, he was 16, 17. But we really only got to see him as a kid. We only got to see him as the annoying little kid who wouldn't stop taking pictures of Harry in Chamber of Secrets. So that's kind of, and we didn't see his death on screen, but he did die. And so then I can only imagine his death as his kid character. And yeah, Harry Potter just does a really great job of showing that, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
Now there's this one character who I believe is also very important, but we have not touched on him yet, and that is the character of Neville Longbottom.
Yes, I love Neville.
Do you relate to Neville secretly, Nate? Do you feel like Neville?
Why?
Sometimes.
Not really.
No?
No, he's like a million times more confident than I am.
Aww.
No, I'm kidding. But, I mean, he started off like as this dopey looking kid, and then he becomes like second in command. I guess he was like the leader of the resistance when Harry's not there. That's what he was.
Yeah.
And then he was
he started out really scary too, like really skittish. And then at the end he was like, ugh.
Yeah, and he becomes like the super epic person. And he's the one who slices Nagini in half with Gryffindor's sword. And that was pretty cool. Like, what do we think about his arc?
I love Neville's arc, both like physically and mentally, because, you know, you have this term glow up where, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I was a nerdy looking kid, but now I'm like super attractive. And
if you look at him now, he definitely had a glow up.
Like I think the phrase has literally turned into Neville Longbottom. Like in How to Train Your Dragon, Hiccup was this little toothpick. He was a little nerd. And then by How to Train Your Dragon 3, he Neville Longbottom. He had a huge glow up. And then Neville's character arc of, you know, well, even in the beginning, in the first movie, where Hermione, Ron, and Harry are going down to get the Sorcerer's Stone, and Neville's like, I'll fight you. And, you know, even though he didn't win at all, he had that bravery. He is a true Gryffindor, and it just got better, and he had shitty luck, and it was super unfortunate that he had so much bad luck. There's the line in Chamber of Secrets where Lockhart releases the pixies, and the pixies pull Neville up by his robes.
Why is it always me?
Why is it always me? And his confidence gets better, especially when Harry is presumed dead, and Neville's like, Harry might be dead, but he lives on in here in our hearts, and so we'll never stop fighting. And I
love that. That was one of my favorite lines from him.
He truly has the best arc in the series, and he's also a super underappreciated character. And I think, because really the trio and like Draco get the most love. It's like, oh yeah, Harry, he's the main character. Ron, because he's the dorky best friend who we love. Hermione, because she's the girl best friend that, she's smart and she's witty and she's cute and all this stuff. And then Draco, he's the villain with the redemption arc. And then Neville's just kind of like, hey, I also had a really cool redemption arc. Or not even redemption, just I have a cool character arc. Like, give me love. And
I think Dumbledore played a part in giving him some confidence whenever he gave those points, those extra points to Gryffindor to have them win the House Cup. I think it was it the first or the second movie?
It was
when he was saying, when he was telling him, it takes a lot of courage.
It was the first one.
It was the first one. It was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, where he tells him, it takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies, but even more so to stand up to your own friends. And so I think...
Stand up to your friends.
Yeah, in that moment, he kind of felt like,
And I did love that, but I also have a problem with that scene, especially as a Slytherin, because Dumbledore could have just given those points to Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville in private, and not embarrass Slytherin in front of the whole school. Like, imagine being a 7th year Slytherin. It's your last year. You've worked hard to earn these points, and these 4 little shits get all of these points. And, like, yeah, they deserved them. They did deserve those points. But to have that... To embarrass Slytherin like that, I love the first movie.
I think they did it all for the show. They did it all for show.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. And it was just so frustrating. So I was just like, poor Slytherins. They deserve better. But
yeah. Speaking of that kind of thing, like, the character of Bellatrix's sister, I don't remember her name, but she's Draco's mom.
Yeah.
Narcissa.
So when when Voldemort tells Narcissa to go and confirm Harry Potter's death when he did the abracadabra thing, and then she asks, "Is Draco alive?" Harry says yes, and then she says that, oh, he's dead, in order to like help him achieve his plan. Why do we think Narcissa did that?
Because she's a mother. She's a mother first. She's someone who her entire life she's been trained to sit pretty, let other people talk, let other people be in charge. Her job is to sit pretty and agree. And she finally has, especially having Lucius as a husband. Yeah. And so she, she's a mother. I think she's finally like really seen, especially because this is post when Voldemort kills the Muggle studies teacher in front of his followers, and that hurt Draco, and I think that hurt Narcissa as well, because I don't believe she was ever truly as evil. I don't think she really ever truly followed Voldemort. I think she's smart, and she's a planner, and she knew what she was doing. And at this point, all she cared about was getting her son back. And because her son was alive, she was like, all right, fine. If my son's alive, so is, I will do what it takes to make sure I get Draco back.
Yeah.
And if that means telling Voldemort, lying to this horrible, horrible person, then that's what I'll do. And she's a very smart woman who is underappreciated. She's, again, another Slytherin that deserves better and just had a really good arc.
Right. And I know, like, she pieces out before the Battle of Hogwarts begins.
Yeah. She's like, bye.
Yeah. So, like, so you mentioned something about Draco Malfoy's arc. What do you think that is? Like, can you explain the redemption arc that he has?
So there's a deleted scene where actually Draco throws Harry's wand to Harry when it's revealed Harry's alive, and I'm pissed that was deleted. But he was a kid born into this not horrible. Well, Lucius was horrible. He was born into a world where he was taught you have to be better. You are better than these other people, and he grew up on that. And it's the same with Dudley. He grew up with Vernon and Petunia as parents, and they weren't the best parents. They spoiled him rotten. And I think with Draco, we do see him at platform 9 3/4 when they do the flash forward, and
he has his family and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And he does get better. He wants to be better than his parents. And I think Dudley also deserved that arc because they were kids born into a shitty family, and they have a chance to grow,
just like everybody else does.
Exactly. Like, we see Neville go from weak to strong, so why can't we see Draco and Dudley go from bad to good?
I will tell you that my daughter, my 16-year-old, sympathizes with that. She has a crush on Draco. And, when everybody sits there and asks her, I'll be like, why? And she's always like, well, because, his father was, a horrible person, and, again, it stems back to mental health, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that has a lot to do with the person that he grew up to be. I mean, his dad would constantly, probably, logically, seeing as how Lucius is, it's logical to believe that he would, always spew this venom into Malfoy's ear, and he would always tell him, these mudbloods, and you can hear it. You can hear it in the way that he talks to others, that he feels like he's superior, and that's because his father taught him that.
Especially when he introduces himself in the first movie, because of who his father is, he was taught a name is more important, and so his name is Malfoy, and that shows a lot of respect, and not royalty, but kind of royalty. Like, it's, oh yeah, my name is better, because I'm a Malfoy, and so I have this respect while you're just a Weasley. And it's interesting because Malfoy and Weasley are on two sides of the same coin. They're both pure blood families. It's just one grew up rich and one grew up poor. And that was a huge part of it. And
poor Malfoy, looking at Lucius and how scary he is, poor Malfoy probably didn't want to ever say anything the opposite of what his dad would say, because he was scared too. His dad would probably disown him, and then he'd be like, where do I go?
Yeah, he would almost turn into Voldemort. And I'm not saying Draco is Voldemort and Voldemort deserves a character arc, because at this point Voldemort decided, he was like, no, I'm gonna be a horrible person. Voldemort's family was horrible, and I believe Voldemort was actually born out of a love potion. Like, his mother brewed a love potion for his father, and so I think that's why Voldemort was never fully capable of love. While Narcissa and Lucius, despite how bad Lucius was, were in love at some point. That's why Draco was more human than Voldemort. That's why Draco can have an arc. Same with Dudley. Dudley is a human. He is a muggle. He can have that arc. And I think it's deleted as well, which is really annoying, because you see all these deleted scenes of actual character development. It's so frustrating, where Dudley tells Harry when they're kind of evacuating, I don't think you're a waste of space. And I think that's a huge improvement to Dudley's character arc as well. And just children born into families that teach them horrible values need to be given a chance to be better.
Yeah, it's like hate is not in us, it's taught. You know, bad things are not in us, they're taught.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. But I think the redemption that they do show in the movie is the fact that he can't kill Dumbledore as he had been instructed, and as he thought he was going to be able to do it. You know, he goes through all the motions, and then when he finally gets to that moment, he's like, I just can't, which is why Severus has to do it.
Exactly. Because, and then speaking of villain character arcs, there's this whole debate of whether Snape is a good person or not. I don't believe he is, because I don't think he ever fully grew out of his childhood obsession with Lily. And James was a bully. Do not get me wrong. James was a bully. Sirius was a bully. Remus was. They all bullied Snape, and that's not okay. But they grew out of it. They became more mature. Snape never grew out of it. And then, this isn't in the books, but it is in the movie, and so it just kind of shows even more. He cradled Lily's dead body while her crying son was in a crib, and then her, dead husband was just laying in the hallway.
Yeah, he steps over his dead body.
Exactly.
And he claims that the only reason why he's watching out for Harry is because of Lily.
But then
it's not because he loves Harry and he wants Harry to do good. He just is doing it for Lily.
The chosen one? Neville very well could have been the chosen. Voldemort could have killed Neville's parents, but instead sent Bellatrix to torture them instead. Snape would have never protected Neville because he wasn't in love with Neville's mother. That is the sole reason Snape protected Harry. And then he was a bully to Neville. He bullied a child so hard that he became that child's worst fear when we see the Boggart demonstration in Prisoner of Azkaban. Like, how do you bully a child so horribly that you become their worst fear? Like, that's not okay. And that's one
of the biggest happens in schools today, too.
Exactly. It's horrible. And that's why I can't give Snape a character arc, because he never grew out of his childhood obsessions. And
I think people are mistaking character arc with new information. We find out more about him and his love for Lily and his past. That's all that we get. It's not really so much him being a different person, because like you said, he never really even grew out of that. He's still stuck on Lily, and you can tell.
And he continued to bully, and it's just, it's not fair to the children, because they have Snape as a teacher, and they get bullied for stupid reasons. Like, poor Neville, he just had bad luck, and he was a good wizard, but there were times when it wouldn't work, and Snape punished him for that for no reason, and it hurt Neville, and maybe that's what stunted Neville's growth for a really long time, which is just frustrating. And that's why I personally don't believe Snape is a hero, but Narcissa is, because Narcissa, she grew out of it. Yes, it took her a while, but you see in Half-Blood Prince, she makes the unbreakable vow with Snape because all she wants to do is protect her child. That's all she wants to do. She's like, if it comes to it, do not let Draco kill Dumbledore. She makes the unbreakable vow. She wants to protect her children. Snape wants to rekindle a love that was never there.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to know like what happened after the course of the 7 books, there is like a sequel to that, which is in the form of a stage play called Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Has anybody?
I have not read that. I have not read it yet.
I read it when it first came out, and then I've seen clips and things from the show, but it's been so long since I read it, I really do not remember a lot of it. But what a lot of people are saying, especially if they've read it recently, that it's not canon because it's so weird. Like, it's so just off from the original series, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, it's been years since I've read it, and unfortunately my book version of that script got ruined in an apartment flood, and so I can't reread it, and I wouldn't have to go buy it again.
What do you guys think about the other series, the Fantastic Beasts series?
So I like Fantastic Beasts, but there is a lot of it that doesn't make sense. I'm hoping that it's just explained further in the further movies. I love Newt and Jacob. I think they are the two most adorable characters in the entire world, and they're extremely relatable. Jacob just wants to own a bakery and not work in the mines. Newt loves creatures, and he's so awkward and funny and adorable. And in the sequel, they cast a young Newt, and I cannot remember the actor's name, but the actor who plays young Newt gets Eddie Redmayne's mannerisms so perfectly. It's like they went back in time and found a young Eddie Redmayne. Like, it is to a T perfect. And I think Fantastic Beasts is a fun series, and there's definitely a lot wrong with it. But there's also a lot of good and a lot of joy. I like the first
I feel like it was something that they were like, well, now the US gets a turn. Now we're gonna have, some stories over here in the US. Because mostly all of these series, the Harry Potters were like in London, right?
And then young Dumbledore is like, I'm wearing a vest and a tie. I'm going to start wearing robes and stuff later.
And it's nice to have something for us as Americans to relate to, because especially because, so in the Fantastic Beasts series, you have the lady whose name I cannot remember. She was like, burn the witches, and that's around the time the Salem witch trials were going on. So not only do we get to have a real history thrown in with our magic stories, it's interesting to see how, we obviously handled the Salem witch trials very poorly in the US when those happened. And so it's interesting to see how it would go in the magical world, especially, with there being witches and wizards, and it's a very just interesting take. And and we get like an adult world. It starts as an adult, not start as an 11-year-old and grow up. It's here's an adult, here's the baseline of this dark thing that's happening, and it's only going to get even darker. And I like that. I think that's a really interesting thing that we get to see.
Did you like what's his name in it? What's his name?
Who, Johnny Grindelwald?
Who?
You say Grindelwald? Is that what you're gonna say?
No, not Johnny Depp, but the other guy, Colin Farrell.
Yes, Colin Farrell. Oh, he's so.
I have such a hard time with his acting. I don't know why.
I honestly, for the longest time, I feel like I watched him in things, but I didn't actually realize who it was, so I was just kind of indifferent. He's just kind of like one of those actors where I'm like, oh, that's Colin Farrell, I think. Yeah. But he had this creepy but fatherly vibe towards Credence, which I think is a really cool character to play, given who he actually is, being Grindelwald in disguise. To be this villain, but then have like a fatherly bond with Credence, who is just this poor kid, and he has this obscurus, and it's just horrible. And Colin Farrell plays that fatherly, comforting villain really well and interestingly, and it leads into Johnny Depp playing Grindelwald. And then in the sequel, again, spoilers, when Queenie actually decides to go over to Grindelwald's side, because he still has this comforting feel to him, even though he is a villain and he is bad. Queenie has this comfort and draw towards him because all she wants to do is be with Jacob. That's all she wants to do. And that's kind of what that's part of what he wanted to kind of do, was let muggles and wizards be together. he's just going about it the very, very wrong way. So it, you know, Colin Farrell played that well, and then Johnny Depp took it even better and still plays this. It's, you don't see a separation when they finally switch actors. You see it. It's like Colin Farrell actually turned into Johnny Depp. Yeah. It's a good continuation that they had together, which I really like.
Yeah. So we're like, I wanted to
super overtime.
Oh, we're like a 34 minutes over time. But before we do, I kind of want to discuss Dumbledore's sexuality. Okay. How do you feel about that?
I think it's interesting. I like that. I mean, I like that it's a story with Grindelwald and Dumbledore of, you know, they are enemies, but they were lovers first, and to have to fight the person you love like that, and, you know, to see the person you love turn into this horrible person, you know, it's like if Voldemort could love and Bellatrix was in love with Voldemort. It's like if Bellatrix was good and she had to fight him, it would be hard to fight the person you love. And you actually see that a lot. Like, how could you do this? How could you, you know, I thought you loved me. I thought this. And I like, you know, we didn't get to see a lot of diverse characters in regards to sexuality in Harry Potter. And there, at some point, J.K. Rowling took it, she just started adding weird things into it that didn't make sense. Like, I don't care that Dumbledore's gay. I think that, I didn't care. Like, okay, cool. I think that's really nice. I actually really like that. But then she just started adding weird things that didn't make sense, that had nothing to do with story, and I was like, this is weird. And then J.K. Rowling herself is actually a horrible person, being a TERF.
Some people have already renamed, or like they just say a thing where it's like J.K. Rowling didn't write the books of Harry Potter. They're Daniel Radcliffe did. You know, it's like they don't want her involved in it at all because of the things that she said, you know, against the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, like, I love Harry Potter. Yeah. And I love Harry Potter. I will forever love Harry Potter. That doesn't mean I have to love J.K. Rowling anymore. What she's said against the LGBTQIA community and trans women especially, it's just really horrible. And
it's really insensitive.
It's so insensitive. And so it kind of went off track of what you were asking, Nathaniel, so my bad about that. But to answer your question, I don't care that Dumbledore's gay. I think that was I actually like that. I think it's an interesting, it's a good character to have. We have a gay character because, again, we didn't get to see a lot of LGBTQIA diversity.
Yeah, because it's like they're going to say there's no, you know, there's only heterosexual people in the wizarding world. And it's like, that's not true. Yeah, like, that would never be true.
In the Harry Potter game, Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery, you have like different love interests, and I don't know if you've played the game at all, but I love it. I love it. So my character's a girl, but you can have they have like Valentine's Day events. You can choose from this girl as your love interest, or this guy as your love interest, or da-da-da, and you can choose basically anyone to be your love interest. It's not like automatically, if your character's a girl, you can only choose from these guys to be your love interest, because that's not fair.
Yeah, because they're gonna relate human nature and human feelings and emotions with these wizards and witches. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you not gonna also show this part? You know, exactly. That's relatable, like, because this is, if you're gonna give them the same frailty and the same emotions and things that they go through just as humans do, then it's stupid for you to think that there wouldn't be anybody that's bi or gay or lesbian or anything like that.
Exactly.
You know,
like I love reading just like random posts. It's like, I ship Harry and Draco, and I'm like, you know what? Same.
How do you feel about it, Nathaniel? Nate, how do you feel about Dumbledore's
sexuality? I think it's just fine. I don't mind it at all. The only thing that I I'm kind of iffy about, and I think that was kind of like what I was really asking, was J.K. Rowling kind of just adding it after the fact, because I don't think she originally wrote that character to be gay.
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like she was doing to just appease people, not because she actually thought they belonged there.
Yeah, and I don't think that's not fair to the LGBTQIA community. You know, if you're
the LGBT community is like, hey, how come we don't get to be wizards and witches? Like, what the hell?
Like, and she's like, oh, okay, well, Dumbledore's gay. And it's like, okay, great, but why didn't you write him like that originally? And that's not fair. Like, write these characters diverse, you know. Not everyone's gonna be the same character. Not everyone's gonna be the same person. And it's, I feel she didn't go about diversity the right way, I think, at all. And it's really frustrating, especially now that we know kind of who she is as a person, regarding the LGBTQIA community, especially transgender people. And it's so frustrating. So it's like, I wish you wrote them like this originally. Like, it would just be really nice to have a character like that originally and not be thought of after the fact.
Yeah, and also I know that when the Cursed Child came out, it was revealed that they cast Hermione as an African British person, was playing Hermione, and a lot of people were like, well, why is she African British? I don't know if she was African American or African British, because like in the book she's white, but J.K. Rowling went out and said, hey, she was never meant to be white or black or anything like that. Even though there is text saying that Hermione had pale white skin in the books.
So she was lying.
It's been a while since I've...
Yeah.
It's been a while since I read the books, so I can't remember if that was mentioned. But at the same time, it's like Hermione's skin color didn't have anything to do with who she was as a person, and so it's kind of like, okay, like Broadway, for example, they currently have, I can't remember her name. She played Hot Girl in the CW of Flash and Arrow and Legends, but she is African American, and she's playing Elsa on Broadway right now.
Ooh.
Elsa's skin color had nothing to do with who she was. She was just a girl who had ice powers.
Right.
And some people were
they did put her in, like, what, Austria or something like that?
Norway or something. And I obviously can't speak from experience because I'm white. Like, I can't speak from that experience at all. I don't know those. I don't know those stories. I don't know those. But it's a lot of characters in fantasy worlds, especially, their skin color really doesn't have anything to do with who they are, especially if they're white. Like, it's not.
Especially if they're made up. Like, they're made up.
Yeah, and like, it's not going to affect the story. And I didn't see any performances of this Hermione in Cursed Child, but I've heard she's a brilliant actress. I've heard, she's done wonderful things. So it's like, who cares? If she plays Hermione and she, has her personality right, and she's right as much of her age, and she does have that, then who cares? Yeah. And so I think it's just like, if the actor can do the role, and the character doesn't need to be a certain skin color. Like, if someone wrote a story, or if part of Hermione's backstory was she was bullied because of her skin color, then clearly that needs to be a thing. But if her skin color had nothing to do with it, why can't Hermione be black? Why can't Harry Potter be Asian? Why can't Ron be Indian? Like, why can't all of these characters be? Because it's just not mentioned. Yeah.
I think what really rubbed people the wrong way was just the fact that Rowling lied. I think that.
That's what I was about to say. Like, she just used it as for her to backtrack.
Yeah.
What was originally there. So we see you, J.K. Rowling.
J.K. stands for just kidding, Rowling.
Just kidding, Rowling.
The author who must not be named.
Oh. So, speaking of which, there is this Facebook post that I highly suggest people read, and it was about the first and I believe only person who was African American to play Hans in the Disney World rendition of Frozen. and he was telling us about his experience there, because he was talking about his experience, and that he also had a co-star with him who was the first and only African American Anna that he shared the stage with, and I highly recommend people read it, because it's a very interesting insight into like how that whole thing is like, especially when race is a part of it.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not a person of color at all. I'm white as hell. So like I can't speak for any of these people's experiences or stories. I can't do that. But basically from what I can say is, if a character's skin color doesn't affect the story, then anyone should be able to play them. Like the Broadway show In the Heights, their skin color, that's a huge part of it. Like that's a huge part of the story. And so don't cast Cassie Levy, who played Elsa first, who's white, don't cast her for In the Heights. Yeah. That's not gonna match. But if it doesn't matter, like it doesn't in Frozen,
who
cares?
Or like in West Side Story, where it's Puerto Ricans and white people.
Exactly.
A gang and a white people gang.
Yeah.
So we are way over time.
My bad.
Yeah, so we're way over time, but we had a good time talking about Harry Potter. The last thing that I want to mention real quick is we mentioned this in the previous episode, that we're going to do a giveaway. So we have finally found a Black-owned business that we're going to partner with, and they have an awesome skincare line. It's botanical, it's free of toxins, and it's made fresh, and it's made customizable to the person, that's going to be the winner of the giveaway. So it comes with a free consultation, free virtual consultation, and everything is made, for your skin. And so we'll have that coming up soon. You got to follow our IG at Wacky Talkies on Instagram, because we'll be announcing that soon. So it'll be $100 gift card to the skincare line, and you'll also get some merch. Hopefully we'll have that in soon. It'll be probably like a shirt or something that's also given away. But
and skincare is so important.
Yes, the giveaway. Skincare is so important. Like I was glad that we were able to partner with her with this business in particular, because it's skincare and it can, be for everyone. Everyone needs,
skincare is not gay or feminine.
Right.
People are like,
exactly.
Men are like, skincare is gay, and I'm just like, it's your skin. Be healthy. Don't.
I got like a bunch of skincare products to help with like pimples and stuff, and
acne. Yeah, everybody has acne. Like everybody has kinds of skin, but like if you care, I should say, if you care about your skin and you want a good skincare line that's free of toxins and clean and botanical, then this is for you. And like I said, but it's made for anyone. Anyone can benefit from this giveaway. Yeah. So just watch out for that soon, and then we'll also put Becca's IG handle in the description as well, so you can go follow her and keep up with her achievements as a writer and filmmaker.
Oh, well, thank you.
We want to see.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being on here with us. It was very insightful.
Yay,
yes, thank you.
All right.
And
bye.
fun.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.